Hi everyone, it's Terry from Early Girls Yarn. Thank you so much for coming back to the podcast. It's a sluggish podcast at best. I'm just going when I can, filling in when I have something to share. And boy, do I have something to share today. First of all, you can find me obviously YouTube at Early Girls Yarn, on Instagram, Early Girls Yarn, and Ravelry. Early Girls Yarn, E-A-R-L-E-Y, is how early is spelled because my husband's family, that's how they spell it. So Early Girls Yarn. I am sharing, had the wonderful opportunity to go to Knit City in Toronto, Canada. Gosh, it's been a week and a half ago, I guess now, and I am just getting everything out for you. You can't see, but my whole work table is full of things to share with you. Now, before we get too far into this, I don't know if you have noticed, which I don't know how you couldn't, because this Swancho just glows with my sprinkled fibers yarn. It is May 29th, I think, or something like that here in Michigan, but it's 63 degrees here today. So I can wear a Swancho and then pull it off if I get too hot later, but it's been perfect today. So one of the ladies that I went with, Jen, was watching older podcasts and she's like, oh my gosh, I want to see that done. And I'm like, I have it. So that's why I'm wearing this today. I might see if I can snap some pics outside, if Izzy will take some pics for me, so I can post it. I never did post a finished object. So what I did with this, I did some videos on how I worked on this and how I got my colors figured out. So you can see those are earlier. But I did knit, I started with the large neck and I'm so glad I did. And then everything else was in the smaller size. Now I wear it with, I don't know if you can see, I have like this little tee with a little lace at the end, just because this one's famous for, like, if you move your arms up, it does right up, and like nobody needs to see that on me. Like, no thank you. Now what I am going to be on the hunt for is I only have fall colors of these types of things. I don't know why. I have a maroon one and I have this gray one, which is fine, but I do want to find, like, the light blue would be so pretty to have under here. So anyway, this is it. I'll come a little closer so you can see. It's really not the best, but that's what it is. So I love it. I'm going to be wearing it all today. I don't know why I waited so long to knit this pattern, but it's awesome. A bunch of ladies use sprinkle fiber yarns. I think we started maybe like almost a year ago, and we did it as a group, but then the group kind of fizzled out and everybody did different things because life got busy. And I'm probably one of the longer ones to get it done, but let me tell you, I'm here for it and I'm loving it now. So this is the Ninulchik Swancho by Boylan Knitworks, and it is out of Sprinkled Fibers Yarn, who is Lindsay in California, and I love, love, love her bright colors. It's just her aesthetic. The other bright thing I have up here, because this kind of kicks off the Knit City, and for me, this was kind of the star of the Knit City show. I did wear knitwear every single day. I had a knit tee that I wore. The weather was such that worked out great. One day maybe I got a little bit, well, Saturday, there was no air conditioning, it seemed like, in the the room with all of the vendors, and that got hot. But other than that, it was like, for outside, out and about Toronto, my little knit tees were perfection. So the whole weekend, just like for volleyball, I brought along my Joji Locatelli extra large Pampa. I have many of her bags. You know what? I'll have to do an episode one day with all the Joji bags that I have. This one is neon pink. I bought it for when we travel for volleyball because I just feel like no one can ever lose me in a big crowd. Like, if you're in a big crowd and you're just scanning to see where someone's at, this neon bag will just, she's a showstopper. And I cannot express how many times I was stopped at Knit City, Canada to talk about my bag and to talk about Joji. I made sure, I can't speak highly enough for the Joji bags. I've had this one for, I don't even know, at least 3 years of volleyball seasons, if not 4. for sure 3, it could be 4 years. And I mean, this puppy, she's durable. Like, yeah. The handles, new handles are light. So the handles darken like good leather does. But you know, I have loaded this thing to the brim for airports. I've had like 10 water bottles for when we go to the convention centers and Izzy needs water. It's had heavy loads, never have had an issue. So I cannot recommend this enough. Okay, so while it wasn't purchased there, I had that bag with me the whole trip, and let me tell you, it was a showstopper. So let me take you through my Knit City adventure. Okay, so my friend Robin, I had met through Wool Swap. Wool Swap is something, it's still going on now. I've not done it, I think in probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. I'm not sure that I've done it since being in Michigan. It's awesome. I did international wool swaps, which is how I met my friend Robin. She's from Canada. But then shipping prices just got to be higher. So I decided it probably wasn't the right fit to do international at the time. So then I switched and started to do just the United States. I met some awesome people, both internationally and locally. One of the awesome people is Robin. So I had never met Robin in person, but we were Wool Swap partners, I think in 2019, I think she said. I couldn't remember. It's been a while. We have since done 2 years now of Advent, like scrappy Advent swaps. You know how you have leftover yarn all the time. So we do Advent fingering sock weight scraps. So she's just a delight. She's just a delight. She's awesome. Well, she had a group of friends that she compiled together. I think maybe a few of them knew each other, but another one, Liz, from Vancouver, I believe, but it's the other coast. She flew in and only knew Robin as well. And she was actually one of Robin's Wool Swap partners too. So anyway, I will walk you through who I met and how I met them, but all of this was brought together and hinged around Robin, who's just such an amazing person. She is Knit Pearl Mama on Instagram, and she's like one of the best connectors of people I've ever met. So I am so grateful that Wool Swap put us together. God knew what he was doing when he helped make that match, because this weekend was everything I needed, everything I didn't even know that I needed. It was amazing. So let me go leading up to Knit City. My husband works for a nuclear power plant, and he was on an outage. And at his old work that he'd been at for 20 some odd years, outages, and he's had like world records for outages that he's led. They're usually like, I don't know, 2 weeks. That's kind of a long one. 3 weeks is a really long one. This one at this plant seemed to be, now let me preface this with, they only do an outage every other year because it's a single unit plant. And 2 years ago when he moved, the outage just ended when he moved, and it went like 137 days. I'm like, Randy, that's crazy, because during an outage, he's working anyway, midnight. So he leaves the house at 4 p.m. He gets home at around 7 a.m. straight. So I'm like, that's insane. Like that's not logical. You can't keep that schedule up. Like that's nuts. So he was brought in to help this plant specifically with outages, because it's just one of the things he's just amazing at. Well, I erroneously was like, oh, it'll have no problem being done, and I can go to Knit City, no problem, when Robin and I talked about it in January. It's like, I bought my tickets, I got my class booked. I'm like, yes, let's go. I'm splitting room with Robin. Well, then as it got closer, I'm like, oh my gosh, Robin, he's still in his outage. Oh my gosh, Robin, he's still in his outage. Let me just say, I left on a Thursday. He was out of his outage, I think on Tuesday was his first day off. What in the world? So she and I were like, please, Lord, we were praying that this could be resolved so that I could go. Because I mean, if he's still in his outage, there's no way, even though Izzy can drive and she's older, I just did not feel comfortable leaving her and Cece and being like in a different country. It was only 4 hours away, but still, like, that was not okay for me. So I was on pins and needles up until Tuesday. To get my mind off of that, I decided it would be an exceptional time to redo the landscaping of this house. So this will be our second, we'll be here 2 years in August. So the first year we moved in August, it was a whirlwind getting the kids in school. Like I did nothing for the house. I'm like, it is what it is. The second year, last year, we should have probably mulched. We did not. And I did a bunch of pots, but I didn't do any landscaping. I just wanted a whole year, a whole season to see what grew where, what flowered, what didn't, what did I want to do. So this year I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go to Knit City. I was really kind of sad and irritated about that. So I'm like, I'm gonna just work on the house. So I went out and did that. In the meantime, I don't know if it's like the pollen that was in the air or, you know, I got bagged mulch because it was just me doing it. So it's easier for me to carry bags of mulch than to like shovel into wheelbarrows and tote it all over. So I got bagged mulch and some of them were moldy. So I don't know if it's like the mold from the mulch or pollen in the air or whatever, but I had a cough. I felt fine. I was doing tons of yard work, no problem, but I had a cough. And so I was like, Robin, I FaceTimed her. I'm like, Robin, I don't know if I can go. Here's my cough. Like, I want you to hear it. I have no fever. I feel fine. I'm working a ton, but I don't sound good. So she listened and she was like, if you have no fever and you feel good, you just come. I'm like, done. So then I went, I had a train. Robin told me, like, ride the train. It's awesome. You can knit on the way there. I'd not done that before. I hadn't been in Canada since high school, when I was in high school. So a high school trip with like the choir, we went to Canada. So it had been Niagara Falls. It had been years. I mean, 30 years, 25 years, something like that, however long it's been. Let me think about this. 25, so 20, 26, 27 years, something like that since I've been. So I was driving. We are like 35 minutes away from Canada with no traffic. So it was like 45 minutes. I thought that I had, so I was told at the DMV when I got my license when we moved here that, I mean, you bring in like your birth certificate, marriage certificate, all the things to get the real ID, your ID with like a gold star in the corner. I was told, yeah, that's fine. You can get into Canada with that with no problem. So that's what I had. So I drive up, customs lady was super nice, but she's like, this is not an enhanced ID. You really should not be able to come in. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I get home? I'll just turn around right now. Like I need to be able to get home. And she's like, no, it's fine. I'm going to let you through. No problem. I'm like, but can I get back? And she's like, it's not gonna be a problem because you're a United States citizen. I'm like, okay. So a little stressed out about that, but I got through. I'm like, okay, Lord, like you take care of Monday when I come home and just hope I get back through, but I'm going to enjoy my time. So I went, the little Windsor train station. It's just a little itty bitty train station, but it was so delightful. I mean, your parking's right there, so convenient. So I parked my car, walked whatever, 30, 40 steps into the train station. And then I got there early because I didn't know how long customs was going to take. I just didn't know. So I had a good chunk of time to knit before the train took off. What I decided to do was to knit Canadian sock yarn while I was in Canada. So I had cast on just the cuff the night before because that was not Canadian yarn. That was just, you know, heels and toes. What did I do? Heels and cuffs I did with just yarn I had here. So I had yarn. I had 3, I don't know, gobstoppers, some people call them, but I had 3 like balls of yarn. This is the one I ended up picking. This is called Lemon Sour and it's by Scrumptious Pearl. Now, Scrumptious Pearl is a Canadian dyer who actually had yarn there. So part of me was like, and I bought this yarn back in like 2018, I think, or 19 when I thought I was going to be a sock knitter, but I just didn't get it figured out. So I was a good sock purchaser of yarn, not a good knitter at that time of socks. So I'm like, oh, I just want to see, you know, what, if I can do this, I want to cast it on. I want to knit it while I'm there. So here is the cuff that I had done, just this little bit. I decided to do just a little bit of black and then gray. And then I started casting on the heel toe do-si-do pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady on the train. I got all the way through the heel. I think I was maybe like that far on the first sock on the train ride there. Is that not crazy? So then as I'm knitting, I'm like, I'm pretty far. I mean, I had no one by me. I was watching movies and just knitting and thoroughly enjoying my time. I'm like, this is amazing. I am a train convert. I kept texting Robin like periodically. I'm like, I love train life. So fun. So anyway, so I was working on that, got there. Robin met me at the train, which was super sweet. We then walked to our hotel, which was all great. We stayed at the hotel that the knitting convention, Knit City, was at. Like, it was a walkway, and then it was all the Knit City things. And then we were at the hotel that was attached to it. So super convenient and lovely. So I met Robin. She was awesome. We met up with her friend Jen, who they knew each other. It was the only friend that we connected with that knew each other from, not from a wool swap partner, but just knew each other. So we had dinner. I knit at dinner. The best part about wool friends, yarn friends, is that we knit literally everywhere. It was lovely. I always had my bag. I always had my sock with me because I wanted to knit on it. So at dinner, I think it was at dinner, it could have been dinner or maybe after something the next day, but Robin was like, it was probably the next day. Robin said, if you get your socks done, you should take a picture in front of the CN Tower, which is one of their famous places there. It was right downtown. I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so cool. So then I was on a mission, and we'll talk about that more later. So we had the wonderful evening with Jen, ate at the Old Spaghetti Factory, I think it's called, downtown. Super, super cute. So Friday morning came, and Robin and I were only signed up for one class. We did the mending class, Visible Mending by Aurora. I'm gonna not even be able to say her last name, but she is Bookhou, Bookhou on Instagram. Here's her book that I bought at the class, and it was so interesting. So she had different types of fabric. This is like a jersey type of fabric, like a t-shirt fabric, and then different types of jean fabrics with, like, you made holes, how to do, like, if there's a line, like a straight tear, like a knife got it, how to make all these repairs. It was so interesting, so much fun. And this little mushroom thing with a flat edge, so it sits just, let's see if I can show it. It sits on your table, and then you would put whatever you're mending around it and then use the elastic band to secure it so that you can do your work right here. Such an interesting class. Learned so much. I've not yet found anything or been like, oh my gosh, I need to mend that since we've been home. It's only been a week and a half, so that is fine, but so grateful that I took it. And the book, if I had just picked this book up and did not have the class, I might have been like, what in the world? I mean, look at these jeans that are just so cool with all of the patches and all of the different textures that are created. So cool. I might have been like, I don't know. After taking the class, I understand what the intention was or is. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I remember what she was saying. So if you ever have the opportunity to take a class from her, she was so sweet and so kind. And I really, really enjoyed that class. So that's what we did Friday morning. Then we met Robin's friend, Liz. Liz is another wool swapper. She's the gal from Vancouver. She was so delightful. So I cannot express enough how much fun we had, how much knitting brought people. I never would have known any of these amazing people if it hadn't been for all of our shared love of knitting. So we met Liz. Liz had done the red eye. So she had flown all night long. So she crashed. She actually was able to check in early, which was awesome. She crashed while we did our mending class, and then we met up with her for lunch and hung out. We also then met another one of Robin's friends, Paul. Paul is another person that Robin met through the wool swap, and he was an absolute hoot. So Paul, Jen, and Liz, Robin and I were like a little group that had the most fun the whole time. It was amazing. Paul and Jen are both from Toronto, so they didn't stay at the hotel. So we kind of like met up with them at different times throughout the weekend. And they just, it was awesome. So Paul was hilarious. We, of course, all had our knitting out at dinner, and we're knitting away and chatting away while we had dinner. I don't remember the name. I want to say it was like Scatagory, which is not the name of the restaurant, but it was like Scatter something. Delicious. It was delicious. I had pasta 2 nights in a row and I was like, bring it on, Toronto. But it was a lot of fun. So we did that Friday night, came back, and then Saturday, it was the marketplace that opened. So all of us were like, you know what? We don't need to like buy a ton. Nobody, I mean, you can see just a little bit of my yarn. Like that's not even half of the yarn that I have in this little, what you see. So I have plenty of yarn. It's like I have my own personal yarn store here. I don't have a need for more yarn, but it was a marketplace. So, you know, of course there's going to be new patterns, new ideas, new something. So all of us were like, we don't need to be there. There's like this huge like rush. Like anytime you go to any type of festival, right when they open the gates, like people are rushing to get in because they want to get specials or kits or whatever they want to get. So we were like, you know what? It starts at 9. Let's just knit up in the room. Let's go get some coffee. Let's get there like, I don't know, 9:45, like 45 minutes after, which is what we did. There was no line to get in. We just got our weekend bracelets, walked right in. Now, I will say, Saturday morning, we'd found out from some vendors the air conditioning was not turned on in this space. So it got hot. Like I was like, whew, I'm sweating a little bit with my summer tee on. I'm like, this is a lot right now, but we all made it through like champions. So let me walk you through the purchases that I made Saturday morning. I wished I had taken videos of the space, of the people. I just didn't. I was just there with everybody. We started off together as a group of 4, but then we ended up splitting. I think Robin and Jen were chatting with someone and Liz and I were like, oh, we're going to keep shopping. So we just kind of wandered off. So I spent most of the morning with Liz as we shopped around, and it was so much fun. We were like the perfect yarn enablers for each other. I did so good for the first, I think 30 minutes. I don't think I made a purchase for like 30 minutes, maybe even the first hour, which I know you're like, Terry, like 30 minutes is not a long time to not make a purchase. Like, do you want a medal for this? But if you've ever been to a festival and you know, like every single booth is amazing. Every single booth, you're like, oh my gosh, look at their samples, look at their yarn, look at their colors. But I did a really good job of looking at samples because my goal was to get through the whole thing, look at samples, really think about what do I want to add, be very intentional. A couple things I knew that actually everything that I got except for one thing, I knew going in, like I wanted to get specific yarn from specific places. Most of it's Canadian yarn. A few, like 2 purchases I think were not. So that was awesome. Like I just had a plan. So yeah, tons of inspiration. It was great. One of the places I knew, I think they're from New York City, I believe, the Wandering Flock, but they had a booth there in Canada. I knew that I wanted the Wandering Flock. I'd never seen them in person. Super bright, fun colors. So let me share, that was the first purchase I made. And what I decided to make, I'll share this first. I decided to do the Friday tee. They had a sample there. So this is the Friday tee by Petite Knit, just a cute little stripy sweater. So what I decided to do was the Mermaid Parade. So this colorway is only at their shows. So you can get it, I think, at any of the shows that they do, but you can't like just get it online. I guess they were saying it's only available at a knit show. So there was one of the workers that had a sweater made out of this. Then her collar was this awesome neon yellow, which you all know I am all for a pop of neon yellow. So the neon's gonna be my stripe and this is gonna be my main color. So this was my first purchase and I was so happy about it. Look at those colors. I mean, come on, hello, you cannot go wrong with this. So that's my first Knit City purchase. I know it wasn't Canadian yarn, but it was something that I knew, a dyer I knew was gonna be there, that I was really excited to see in person. It made me so happy. Liz ended up getting yarn to make a shawl out of Wandering Flock as well. because it's just amazing yarn. It's amazing, happy, lovely yarn. So Lindsay, who dyes this, she's bright. She's a bright, cheery, youthful vibe of her yarn, which I love. It makes me feel youthful and fresh. Wandering Flock, the way I would describe their yarn is neon pastel. So it's still fun neons, but it's really pastel and really light. Lindsay does do light too, so don't get me wrong, but I would say all of Wandering Flock is really like this neon pastel vibe. So happy to see them. They were the most delightful booth. Everyone there was great. I just loved that. So that was my first purchase. That was a sweater, and you're gonna notice a theme with my purchases because I was really focused. I didn't want to just pick up random skeins. Like I think I have, I don't know, 7 cubbies of just random skeins that don't have jobs, and I didn't want to do that. So Petite Knit, Friday Tea, Wandering Flock was my first purchase. So then we like walked around some more, checked some more things out, looked at different ideas. The next purchase I made, and it was a while from then. I almost did another tee, but I held off, which I'm glad I did. I never actually bought yarn for that pattern, so I might later. But I then saw Sonder Yarn Co. So Sonder Yarn Co. is owned by Melissa, who used to own Espace Tricot. Espace Tricot, when Melissa and Lisa owned it, I loved their vibe. She's a different aesthetic than I. She's very neutral, very simple, but I really am drawn to it. Bold colors, actually a lot of neutral colors, then she has some pops of like some bold colors thrown in. I would still call them neutral. Like it's not neon. There's not neon in her booth. So she actually designed the Turtle Dove, which is one of my favorite sweaters. I already put on Instagram, so I'm going to share this now, but it's already probably too late. But Espace Tricot, I learned while there, are taking all of the patterns that were Lisa's and Melissa's, and that were free through Espace Tricot, and they were going to, I think, bundle them and make people pay for them. But one of the ones, a pattern that Lisa created while she was while she owned Sonder, is called Easy Like Sunday Morning. Let me show you this sweater. And they had one in a yellow that was beautiful. But here's the yarn I ended up with. You hold mohair, which I love, with DK. This is BFL. I believe it's non-superwash DK actually. So here's my color. I don't know if it's coming through. It's like this beautiful Kelly green scrumptiousness. And I'm here for it. I'm so excited. Yeah, it's better. It's a little brighter. If I can get the sun, there we go. And when you hold the mohair, you can see the mohair shining a little bit more than the DK. It's just gonna glow. But as we were walking around Toronto, a car bussed up that was like this Kelly green. I think it was a Porsche or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's gonna be my sweater color. That's amazing. So I'm so excited for that. So that was purchase number 2. Okay, so then right beyond Sonder was Max and Vincent from Les Gersons. And I have wanted to squeeze and feel their floof yarn. So I did end up buying some. I'll share the pattern here in a minute. But this is, it is a collaboration because it's from Bath, but it's dyed in Montreal, Canada, which is where Vincent and Max are. It's floof, it's sport weight, it's 55% baby alpaca, 18% merino wool, 17% silk, 10% yak, 100% dreamy, which is so true. I ended up going super neutral. I went with feather. And the reason why, one of my favorite sweaters is the Weekender, what I used Trine, that was super neutral. Well, you can't tell by this because this one's not neutral, but I love a good neutral to pair with a really fun shawl or a really fun bright cowl. So the pattern, one of the patterns they had knit up there was Broom by Andrea Mowry. I'm gonna try and get really close. It was adorable, knit up in their floof. So Liz and I actually both got yarn for this. I cannot wait. I think she went with, if I remember correctly, she did like a gray, and I did this feather like this. It's like a really light oatmeal type of color. So that was sweater number 3. Are you seeing the theme? It was a sweater kind of day. So that was sweater number 3. Super excited for that. Cannot wait to knit that up. Now, oh, okay, I've got a list so I can make sure I get everything kind of like as it came in. Then we were rounding the corner and I almost missed it. Scrumptious Pearl, which everyone knew, like I wanted Scrumptious Pearl. Scrumptious Pearl was in like another booth with other things. And Liz, thank goodness, because I'd already buzzed right by it. Liz was like, Terry, that's Scrumptious Pearl. I'm like, shut the front door. So I whipped right around and there was like one, you know, like a tray, like a layered tray. It had like 3 baskets full of Scrumptious Pearl yarn. That's where it was at. So I started to go through and pull balls out, and the owner came up and she was like starting to replenish, and I saw there were like 3 bags, and I'm like, can I go through your bags of your like stash that you're replenishing? Because some are one of a kind. There was just all different kinds. She's like, yeah, that's fine. I told her about my story. I pulled out my sock and I'm like, listen, I am knitting your Canadian yarn in Canada. And by then we knew my challenge was to get them finished and take photos. I'm like, I'm working so hard. I'm loving every stitch, but this is like my challenge, your yarn. She's like, oh my gosh, that made my day. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. So let me go through my yarn purchases from Scrumptious Pearl. Now I will say some of them are one of a kind. Some of them, like one of them, the tag popped off. But I'll do my best. I'll share the names when I know them. If I don't know them, I don't know them. So this one I thought was amazing, but I believe it's a one of a kind, or at least I don't have the tag for it. So if you know the name, let me know. But isn't that fun? I just thought like the grays, the pinks, the golds, I thought that was so good. So that was one. I believe this one is Coffee Run. I believe, I could be wrong. But this one was just a fun, super neutral. I got those black shoes. So anytime I can get yarn that has black in them, I'm all about it. It's gonna make my shoes look so good. This one's called Sweet and Salty. I mean, it kind of matches my sweater I've got on now a little bit, doesn't it? That'd be fun. So this is Sweet and Salty. This one is Peace and Joy. Again, it had that black in there. I'm like, done, son. That's awesome. This one, I'm pretty sure this one had a name because my friend Jen and I went back later and she was like, oh my gosh, this is one I've been looking for. I've been wanting this skein. And I'm like, I got it too. So I believe this one does have like a name. I just don't know it. Smarter people than me would. Then this one is Cliffhanger. I just thought that was a fun neutral. I thought Izzy might actually like this one. And then this one is like the Pride and Joy, Baby Beluga. Every single person I was with was like, I have socks by this, or I have the yarn for this. So they must be famous for Baby Beluga. I am not giving this one to Izzy. This is one I am so excited to knit up. So that was our morning. So by this point, I had done some damage. My friend Robin was so good. She'd gotten a few things, but she did not go crazy like me. She really stuck to her guns, and I'm proud of her for that. Oh no, I wasn't done yet. Okay, so another one that I got that morning was, let me share you this. Tanis Fiber Arts had a booth with Kit. So fun. So this is for her Floodlight Tee. Now I'm going to show you a picture of the pattern, but she had a pattern which I'll pop in. She had this sample with the stripes there, and that's what sold it. But look at how cute that little back is. Like a little, not an eyelet, but I guess it's kind of like an eyelet gapping with a little tie in the back. So cute. So I'm going to pop in pictures from her Instagram, or no, it was from Ravelry on the pattern with this actual kit. So you can see what sold me with this kit. You'll see. So there are the colors. So excited. And this was, let's see, 10 colors, approximately 150 yards of fingering weight yarn. So I think it was like, I don't know if it was 50 grams, maybe it was 30 or 40, I'm not sure how many grams, but it was a kit that was all kitted up for you. So that was my 4th sweater of the morning and yarn for 7 socks. So that's how that went. So by this time we were all getting like, it was hot. So we were getting warm, we're like hungry, like let's leave to eat. So we left the convention center. We walked past a place that was like a beaver tail. And the ladies were like, oh my gosh, you are just not, you have not done the Canadian experience. You have a beaver tail. Let's do that afterwards. On the way home, like, done, son, beaver tail, let's go. But we walked and walked and we ended up by the CN Tower. We ate lunch at this really cute little cafe. We all did show and tell of all the things we got. And I'm going to share this with you. I didn't buy this till the afternoon, but my friend Jen pulled out this most beautiful sock set, which I totally missed. It was from, look at even the tag, that's there. It was from A Wonder and Her Wool, and it was a Knit City Toronto 2024. So it was for Knit City for this show. And I'm like, how did I miss that? I wasn't buying a lot of like Knit City specific things because I kind of had a plan that I wanted to do sweaters or socks. Like those are the two things that I'm really into right now. But when I saw this, I'm like, I've got to go back. Like, I hope she still has this yarn. I don't know why I was stressing out, but in my head, I'm like, I want it. So I'm like, ladies, can we go back? They're like, yes, let's get a beaver tail and let's go shop a little bit more. I'm like, okay, because we've cooled down. Hopefully some of the crowds have gone. So we went back. Oh, beaver tail. Let me just say, it's like an elephant ear almost at like a carnival, but no holes. It's like flat and it's long. And I got one with Nutella and bananas. Perfection. It was so good. All those Canadians, they know how to do things right there. So that was really, really yummy as well. So then in the afternoon, we went back and I ended up getting a sock set. I'm not sure. I don't think I'll be casting it on to the fall, quite honestly, because it's just, does that not scream fall colors? I just really like that. So got my sock set. And then one of the things that was at the Max, the knitter, and like the Le Garçon Vincent's booth when we went and I got the floof earlier was they had Spin Cycle. So I'm like, I told my friend Liz, I'm like, I want to come back, but there was too many people. I'm like, I want to come back when it's slower because I really want to pull that Spin Cycle out and figure out like, what do I want? I thought it was Max and Vincent's like their own signature color. Well, when we went back and chatted with them, so they had their friend Carmen from England, and her store is a Yarn Story. And this is her like custom colors. I'd have to go to England to see it in person or buy it online, which I don't love buying Spin Cycle online. Like I will from the Spinsters because that's just what, you do. And then you can leave notes about what you might like. But like specialty yarns, like specialty, like I really would prefer to do it in person. I have bought it online once with Black Mountain Yarn Company, but in person's best. Look at the colors I was able to pick out. So this is Next Level, and this is just to show you how different each skein is. So this was one, it's like this really pretty light blue with different like pops of pinks. Can you see like the pinks and the oranges in there? Well, look at this skein, same colorway, but I mean, we're talking pinks and awesome oranges and purples. And then this skein, how fun is that? With like my electric blue, bright orange. So I'm loving it. She had done a shifty with these three, and I can totally see how that would be so easy to do with all the different colors you get. So I've got my 3 skeins from Next Level. I didn't quite understand how special it was while there, but then when I got back and I like looked at Instagram posts and really saw like who was that and where are they from, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd have to go to England to be able to get this yarn in person and see. And she had, I mean, it was like a whole column full of Spin Cycle. It was to die for. So that was really, really fun. And it was really nice to do that and come back in the afternoon because the crowds, it was just so open, so airy. It was absolutely lovely. So we did that. And then we just hung out at the hotel, knit a bunch. We were doing game night at the hotel that night. So we ended up eating at the hotel. We just knit. It took 2 hours to get our meal. That was the only slow meal that like, it was a little clunky. They didn't even bring my food, but thankfully Liz and I both got cheese pizza. So we just ended up splitting hers, which worked out great, but it was a little off. Now I'm going to be real with you because that's how I am and how I would want to be treated. Up until this point, Canada was awesome. It is still awesome. I will 100% go again. The event was great. I mean, the air conditioning is not the event's problem. That's more like where they hosted it. That's their problem. They didn't turn it on. But game night. If there was ever like something that I really will not ever do again, nor would I ever encourage anyone else to do again, it is game night. I think it was $70 or $80 to go. It was from 8 to 10 at night. There was supposed to be appetizers, desserts. You got like a free drink ticket. And then it was going to be games. There were 3 different people that were hosting it. You can look it up. I only remember one of their names. And I don't want to like say one and not the others. You can look it up. We got there at like 8:01 because it took so long. I mean, we were attached. We're in the hotel that's attached to the building that this is at. And it took 2 hours to get our food and check and everything. So we got there a minute late, which is fine. When we walked in, they were pulling the desserts down. Like there were no more left. They're like, it's all gone. It started at 8. We'd only been a minute late. Like, I don't understand how that could be gone. And they had some appetizers, but a lot of those were gone as well. Not great. We find out later that they let vendors and just random people, when the show got done at 5, they just came down and hung out and knit there for 3 hours and ate all the food that we had paid for. I'm like, what in the world? Then we played bingo, and I mean, I like a good bingo. There's nothing wrong with bingo. And it was like a knit bingo. So like instead of saying B1, because they repeated a lot, it was, have you ever knit in a public bathroom or in an airport, or like a airplane bathroom? So you couldn't, even if they called B1, if you didn't do whatever the square said, you couldn't check the square off and say bingo. A little weird. So it's kind of like Never Have I Ever met bingo, or like a Truth or Dare type of thing met bingo. It was a little different. It was 2 hours of that. It was a little different. When you couple that with no food, it just would not do that again. I would save the $80 and buy more yarn, if I'm being honest. So of all the things that I did, that's the negative part. Learning lesson to keep it positive is save your $80 and buy yarn. Like, buy things you can take home and make awesome mementos and awesome things that you'll wear for a long time. So that's just my experience at that particular venue. Or what I would actually do is I would buy tickets to like a musical. They had musicals there, or we'd go out like on a super fancy night of like our group of 5 and, eat at a 5-star restaurant somewhere, like really live it up that way. So that's my suggestion. That's what I would encourage anyone to do. I did there was a table right by us with people that were not playing bingo. There were 2 people sitting by themselves, and I did go up and ask them if they were related, and they were running the event. I did share my feedback with them as well, because I'm one that if it can be done constructively and can make it better for the next time, that it's important to share constructive criticism. And whether you liked the game or not, even if you were satisfied with that, I think having an event in which you've advertised that there's going to be desserts and appetizers and things for people, it needs to be available the whole time, not just for 1 minute of the event. So enough said, enough negativity. Again, I would absolutely go to Knit City again. I don't want to make that the whole of the story, but I also want to be honest with you and share so that you can plan and do something amazing. Okay, so we knew we were going to the Knitting Loft because our friend Paul works there, and we wanted to see him and see the Knitting Loft. It's like a really awesome yarn store in Toronto. But before going there, we were like, okay, does anybody have anything that they still want or that you're thinking about that you want to go grab down at the marketplace? Because we had weekend tickets, so we can go back and go again. Well, let me just say, there was one thing that I had been thinking about and talking about and like, oh, I don't know if I need it, but I really kind of want it. And Jen, my friend Jen, had purchased it, but like with like more speckles the day before when we went back in the afternoon. So I'd been kind of coveting her set. So went back to the Tanis Fiber Arts booth and got a whole bag of 20 minis. How fun is that? You guys know I love a good mini skein, and you can see on my wall of minis, there's a whole row that is empty and needing love. What I loved about these is, of course, the color. I mean, neon yellow, can we? But look at those colors. So I kept thinking about the Paul Klee sweater. I don't know if you remember that one, but it uses a bunch of different colors. So I'm thinking I might use these for that. Or it's awesome now that I'm a sock knitter. I really love going to my wall of minis and grabbing solids to use for heels, toes, and cuffs. So either of those things would be awesome. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. With the exchange rate, Americans do pretty good in Canada. Our dollar is strong. So everything was like 25% off, 30% off. So it was good math for me to get these. And these are all, let's see, 25 gram minis. So they're just a little bit bigger than what I'm used to with my 20 grams. So I was super excited to grab this. I think there are still some left on her website. You will not be disappointed. I was really happy about this one. So I said, no, no, no. And then day 2, I said, yes, yes, yes. So I got that. Then as we were walking, one of the things that I saw the first time around, and I do have the yarn here, is the Cozy Knitter. I've got her yarn here. I think I've knit one sock of hers. But she had a show special called Vintage Library, and she does things in conjunction with Sandy by the Lakeside. So they had a bag there, which I did like. I did like. I did not end up getting the bag because the size of it, well, you guys know, I love my hair. I love this shape from the Prickly Owl. Like, I'm obsessed with this shape for socks. So the size of it, really, it would have only been a sock bag, but it was like a taller one. I don't know. It was just a little different. And because of my Prickly Owl kind of obsession right now, I just wanted the yarn. I didn't necessarily want the bag as well. So day 2, there was much less people. I'm like, I'm just going to go ask. So I asked, and I was able to get the yarn sock set by itself. So I ended up grabbing 2, of course. I grabbed Tulip Fields because that was just like a fun, delightful spring one. And then this one called Vintage Library, which I like. So that was the end of my purchasing from the marketplace from Knit City. So officially we were good. We did that, and then we ended up getting lunch. I don't remember where we got lunch. Oh, we tried poutine, which is a Canada thing. So I will just say, I think it's great if you like gravy. I don't like gravy, like turkey and gravy, like Thanksgiving. I don't like gravy. So I was not a fan of poutine. The Canadians loved it. So I think I'm glad I tried it. If you love gravy, like mashed potatoes and gravy, you will absolutely freaking love it. Not my thing, but we tried that. I had some chicken nuggets with it. So I had chicken nuggets. And then we went on to the Knitting Loft in Toronto where Paul works. So that was so much fun. We were able to snag, our places on the couch, which was so fun. So we ended up sitting and knitting. I think we got there around 2, I'm not quite sure, 1:30 or 2, something like that. And we stayed there till like 5, maybe even a little later. It was so fun. I really don't know. So in Howell, in the yarn store there, I would sit Wednesdays, they have like open sitting, but it's very small and cramped. I mean, it is a store chock full of beautiful, luxurious yarn. And then in the middle, they had the shelves that were like, my size shelves, like those size shelves that you could easily see over, and like a sitting area with like couches, 2 big chairs, and they brought other chairs for people to sit. But it was so lovely, and I'm grateful for that because I was able to sit knit on my sock. And my kind of rule of thumb was when I got through 10 rows, because the way the sock lady tells you every 10 rows, you like mark it so you know how long you've knit. So every 10 rows, I'd be like, okay, put this down, get up and walk around and look, and then come back, sit down, because when I would knit, I would listen to those around me, but I also let my eyes wander because there's so much goodness to see. Like they have so much. La Vie de Mai, Spin Cycle, Farmer's Daughter Fiber, Wandering Flock. They have their own line, yarn line. So much yarn, so much color, so much inspiration. That store is awesome. Like I would probably be camped out there if I lived closer. So we sat and knit and yacked and yacked and yacked. And I just kind of soaked it all in. So the Knitting Loft does have its very own colorway that Spin Cycle makes just for them. So my goal, my thought going in was I'm going to get that Spin Cycle because much like this one from England, I can only get that there. Well, by the time I got there, they only had one skein of that colorway in Dyed in the Wool. I was looking more at Dyed in the Wool. I should, in retrospect, Paul was like, check out the Dream State. I don't know why I just didn't. I didn't look at that, which was sad. But they had so much back stock, I was able to get some Big Sky. So actually, I'm going to pull my other. When I was in Florida the last time, I got Big Sky there, and it was Spin Cycle. Like I should have bought more at the time. I just didn't. But you just never know. The colorways look, even like these three that were all done at the same time, they look so different, each batch, each set of 5, you just never know. Okay, so in Florida, I picked up these 5 skeins and I've just set them next to the 2 from the Knitting Loft. They brought up, they probably had 20 total, but these are the 5 I got in Florida. And what I loved about them is they were like more of a neutral blue, gray blue almost, with pops of neon, which I loved. Like, look at that, like neon orange and yellow. This one has like pops of neon pink, but I loved the neutral part of it. Look at these 2. So I went through and I found these 2. Look how good they look together. Victory! Because it's so hard. I actually did so good. I'm so happy. I hadn't pulled them out yet to look at them. You would think they were all purchased at the same time. A lot of the Big Sky that was there was like, instead of like a blue gray base, it was like a green, yellowy green base. I'm like, oh, those do not, that's not in the same. Ironically, it matches what I'm wearing too. But anyway, so I looked and they brought up all their backlog for me. And I just went through and I ended up with 2 that fit perfect with my others. I'm going to end up making another Jessie May raglan, and I'm going to hold some Surrey with it because I love the one that I made just recently, and I want to make a long sleeve version of it. So that's what this will more than likely become one day when it grows up. But I'm so pumped that it all worked. I might need a few more skeins. I might have to go back to Emma's Yarn when I'm in Florida to see if they still have that same batch or if people have snapped it up. Okay, so that, I got those 2 skeins there. Then I sat back and I knit more. I was done with my first sock and I was working on my second sock. I think I was done with the heel turn at that time. I think I was working on like the foot. And then I noticed, Jen actually noticed they have more Scrumptious Purl there, but it was all, what show? Yellowstone maybe? I've never seen the show, but there was all, I think it was Yellowstone related. So a lot of it was neutrals. And as you can see, I'm not the most neutral person, but you know, socks, you can wear neutral colors with different outfits. But I'd already bought some neutral before Scrumptious Purl, but then I saw this one. It's Winter Cattle Drive. I just thought that was fun. And I loved the black. And then Paul helped me pick out the brown for the heels, toes, and cuffs. So that'll be that. So I bought that there. Yeah, so then that was really the end of my purchases. Now, because I know Paul, now that we're new besties, when they get yarn in, more of their signature color in, he's going to help me pick out some skeins because I do want signature color Toronto Spin Cycle. There was just only one color and it just didn't have much variation. I'm like, I'd rather get this, the Big Sky, than one skein of something that I don't love. Not that I didn't love it, but I like it when there's, if it's neutral, I want there to be more movement in it. I like it when there's different colors because to me, that's what makes Spin Cycle just unbelievably special, is all the movement and the color that you get when you work with it. So that's my purchases from Knit City. But we were not done with the fun yet. We met up with Paul afterwards at the Fried Pickle. I think that's the name of the restaurant. We were getting fried pickles. Robin was on a mission to get fried pickles. So while we were there, Paul was knitting on his socks and I ended up grabbing the pattern. It is Vanilla is the New Black. Look at those. Look at that heel. So I have not cast on this pattern yet. I've got yarn. Is it over here? It's Yarn for Izzy. It is. It's Yarn for Izzy. It's Lawn Dog yarn. I don't remember what. It was from 2021. It was like a book, Stranger or something like that, that she had read. So she loved it. And then just this neutral from the mini wall will be my heels. It'll just be the, I think the cuff and maybe the toe. I think she wanted different. But I'll wait and see how that knits up and what the pattern is. For sure I can do the cuff in this. I don't know about the toe. We'll see. So that's really fun. So I'm gonna knit this pattern that Paul was working on with this yarn for Izzy, and I'm sure I'll do some of my own. But that'll be not quite yet. I've got a few more things I wanna work on and do. So we had dinner with Paul. We ended up coming home. I got my sock done. Monday morning, right before I was leaving, Robin, who I was rooming with, was like, oh my gosh, girl, okay. So I got them, I went and put them on. I will pop in some pictures of the mini pictures that we took, like the photo sesh, and front of the CN Tower. Now, what I will say, it was the first, I'd done heel toe do pattern before, but it was for my daughter, and she's, you know, super slender, so she doesn't have as fluffy of legs as I do. So when I put these on, they were a bit tighter than my socks normally are. I'm assuming because of the pattern, which, I mean, worth it. It's a super cute pattern. I mean, look at that. But when I knit these again, which I will, I ended up buying a 1.5, somewhere around here, needle for another project, which I do want to share actually as well. And I got two. I got a 9-inch one and a 12-inch one in that packet. And I will be doing these again, but I think I'm going to do a 1.5 because I also want to do a 1.5 for when I do color work. Like if I do color work socks, I want it to be a little bit bigger, much like you would for a sweater. So I also have not wet blocked these yet. I think when I wet block, my problem will be solved, but they were a little snug. So that's what I learned. But anyway, love that. Super happy about that. The other thing I almost was remiss in sharing with you, my friend Liz was there. She was knitting away on her Cozy Memories blanket. She started it when it was there because she's moving. I don't know if you can see it. It's like little mitered squares. And it looked like so much fun. Robin was working on her Scrappy Pinwheel blanket, which I have. I've got to pull up. I'll do another video on that because I've got, I don't know, a ton of those squares. I'll show you and show you that pattern. But I was super motivated, which is why I bought those needles. Now I'm going to stress out about where I put those needles. Anyway, it's why I bought those needles so that I can have them for socks when I need just a little bit more room, and also for this blanket. So yeah, so we finished up, we got our pictures at the CN Tower. Then I had cast on the cuff for another sock. And let me just say, I knit all the way home. I'm much further now because I knit as well while I'm home. But this is the sock. It is Desert Vista dye work. It's what I worked on the way home. I absolutely could have cast on some of my Canadian sock yarn, like another Scrumptious Pearl, but I'd been wanting to. This is the bag I took with me, and it's a butterfly bag. And this yarn, if you'll remember, I was gonna knit for Izzy, but it matched my bag so perfectly. I'm like, I want it for myself. So I had been wanting to knit on this for a while, and I'm so glad I did. I mean, look at these colors. They're just stunning. So that's what I did. I'm actually this far along on my second sock, so not quite to my heel yet. But yeah, that's what I worked on. Got home, made it back through customs, no problem. It was the most wonderful trip, and I cannot express my gratitude and thank you to Robin, Jen, Liz, and Paul. It was like fast friends. They were amazing people. We still chat on today, and I'm just so grateful. So if you ever had the opportunity, Knit City, if you're American, if you're Canadian, obviously you're right there. It's awesome. If you're American, it is awesome. And it's like you get a 25% discount because our dollar was really doing well at the time. So highly recommend. Felt unbelievably safe the whole time. I just can't say enough great things about it. So that is my Knit City haul. I ended up with 4 sweaters and 8, 9, 11 socks, and then 20 minis and some spin cycle. All in all, a fantastic weekend. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to comment if you have any questions, and I will talk to you all soon.